Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Flight 80 to Zurich.
80?
Man, wow.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's flown by.
Very appropriate. It's flown by indeed.
Yeah, there you go. And
Wow.
and we're getting to the point now where we're revisiting old haunts for airports. But that's not a bad thing because this was my first experience of the wonderful Zurich airport.
You know what? I was thinking, so I didn't check. That shows how bad we are. I don't think we actually ever did it.
Really?
We've been talking about Zurich because I obsess over Zurich being my favorite airport, and I must bore the audience, you guys, with that. But I don't think it was the name of any episode ever.
That's
actually.
funny. That's funny. Well, then there we are. So we're not retreading in this particular instance.
Alex flew to Zurich for the first time. I mean, he experienced the airport, which is why we're going to talk about it at the end. But you actually experienced something else for the first time.
A CS-100, yeah. A brief flight, yeah. But I was very excited to finally get to try it.
So how was it?
Great. What a neat airplane. So many little things where if you gave me a pen and paper and said, list all the things you'd want if you designed a no-shore-haul airplane, that I would have gone, you know what would be cool is if you had A, B, and C. And they did. Like the little screens work so well.
Yeah.
They work so well. And big, beautiful windows and very quiet and just a pleasure to be a passenger in.
Yeah, it's a very nice aircraft. The Delta just flew. So last week or 2 weeks ago, they actually had their first pictures released with the livery. And now that, the whole thing is gone about the tariffs and whatever. And they flew, I think, yesterday, the test flight, the first 220-100, so
cool.
CS-100. So guys in the US will be having it. One thing I didn't know is that Korean Air is having some as well.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. There was some article yesterday that was listing who gets it, so Swiss and Air Baltic were the launch customers.
Yep.
But I didn't know about Korean Air.
That's great. I think it's going to prove, to be a very popular airplane. I mean, you look at the capacity, and I was flicking through the Swiss magazine looking at their fleet, and you compare the Embraers in terms of capacity and the Bombardier, or not Bombardier, the Airbus. And they're reasonably similar. And I think those are both very, very good and will prove to be very popular airplanes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're living in an era of small, nimble aircrafts are taking over the world, right?
Versatile. Yeah, exactly. Very versatile, multi-role airplanes. I was impressed. And I'll talk more about my experience because it was the first time I flew Swiss too, which was just made me angry. Not for the reasons you think it would.
Well, we'll do that. Actually, you know what? We'll do that just before we reach the airport at the end. So it will be a nice shoe-in to you going to the airport. How did you get there? So we'll talk about that. So we're recording today, Monday, October 8th, 2018, exactly 2 weeks after our last episode. So where have you been besides Zurich in the last 2 weeks?
Let's see. I've been to Kristiansand, Norway, which was a new experience for me and great. Really, really beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I guess it's a city. It's a pretty big city, about 90,000 people, on the southern end of Norway. Temperate, really nice. Apparently, they have a lovely summer there. It was sunny but cool when I was there, but just pine forests everywhere, some mountains, reasonably close to skiing. Very popular in the summer for tourists, apparently, and then in the winter for skiing. I was there at the Norway Digital Travel Conference, so it was nice to be able to chat with fellow travel folks, especially at the sort of cusp of, or the intersection of digital and technology and travel as well. Yeah. Very, very progressive collection of people in terms of sort of collaborating across various travel functions, be they hoteliers, cruise lines, airlines, taxi companies, and everything in between. So that was a fun experience. And I got there on KLM, which we've both been critical of long haul, but I flew on their, what the heck is their London City Hopper, KLM City Hopper.
Yeah.
Out of London City. And I don't know if you've experienced this as well. The services out of London City, BA, KLM, I can't comment on Swiss because I've only ever experienced them out of London City. Alitalia, they're all so good compared to their mainline counterparts. And my KLM experience was the same. It was really, really good.
170?
It was a 170 all the way there and a 190 all the way back, interestingly. Because obviously I transited through Schiphol.
I'm wondering if, first, maybe they know the audience that flies from Lucy, although it's also can be tourists, right? It doesn't have to be only city bankers. But I'm wondering simply that the size of the aircraft allows for a more personalized experience.
Yeah.
Over even a 320, which is not large, but it's still much larger. I don't know.
I think that's probably exactly what it is. There's that opportunity to spend an extra 30 seconds with the passenger. Yeah. I was in business class, and I thought that the way they did the meals was really good. They gave you this sort of, it's a cardboard box. That's exactly what it is. There's no other way to describe it. But what they had in there was excellent. It was all salads, but it was fresh and tasty and high quality for the, whatever it is, 42-minute flight from London City to Amsterdam, and then an hour from Amsterdam to Christiansand. It's basically directly north. Across the water there, it was the same sort of service, different salad, but a nice pudding, decent bread, very friendly people, decent drinks around. It was just good. And I don't know what your experience is like. In fact, I think we missed each other in Schiphol by 20 minutes.
Actually, we did that a lot in the past 2 weeks because we also missed each other in Zurich,
yeah.
actually.
Schiphol is one of the few airports in the world where if we pull onto a remote stand, I don't go, oh, God damn it. Because they've got it down. You get off, there's a bus waiting for you, you're in there, there's no pushing and shoving. It works really well. And almost always, if you're on a Embraer maybe it's just City Hopper, you're on that sort of stable, like horse stable of outside gates. The B gates, I think they are. At Schiphol, I can't remember. Anyway, it just works. You get in there, you go through there. Even if you have to go through passport control, which I did transiting, it works. That airport is so acceptable for transiting. Nothing is a joy. Maybe Zurich is, but we'll talk about that later.
No, but Amsterdam is very nonsensical, so it just works. It's very Dutch in a way. It's like they won't take any nonsense. It's just efficient. Yeah. Doesn't mean that it's always amazing, but it's efficient. And hey, come on, you have the Heineken bars everywhere as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was fine. And Christiansand Airport was adorable. It was a single runway, much like Lucy. You taxi back down the runway. It was right on the water, and it was beautifully well designed, incredibly sensible. Like they had a kids area. You could see security. Basically, you're bumping into security from the check-in desk. It's small, but it worked. It worked so well. Everybody was so friendly, even at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever horrendous hour of the day it was when I left. It was the perfect little airport, and I cannot wait to go back there.
That kind of reminds me of Bergen. Probably is a similar size airport, like tiny. Not being dismissive, is that they are just so easy to deal with.
Yeah,
compared to anything remotely bigger.
Yeah, and I think London City is the different. London, there's nothing adorable about London City.
No.
But it's like the IKEA of airports. It works, and it works really well. It's like if you're going, they've got one long line of gates. You get on your airplane and you're done.
Do I have to assemble my own chair?
Yes, you have to assemble the airplane before you get on. Yeah, so KLM was good. I've never. No, I lie. I have flown the short haul on KLM.
Yeah, recently actually, no?
Yeah, from Amsterdam to Heathrow in a 737.
Yep.
And it wasn't great. And then my flight from, let's see, where was I going? Amsterdam to Moscow. Also reasonably short haul. Not as good. So that kind of, I guess, lends some credibility or credence to my theory about Lucy.
I agree with you. What I did KLM, was it Paris to Amsterdam? It was okay. Especially because it was one crew that was standing out, but the rest was meh. And it was part of the bigger ticket. You remember, guys, I could have taken, EasyJet, Ryanair would have been pretty much the same. No, not Ryanair, okay, because Ryanair is not. So I went to Amsterdam as well. We missed each other, as you said, but I flew from Gatwick myself, being it simply closer from where I live. So I flew BA, not KLM. And the reason I chose that specific route is because I knew on Google Flights, it would tell me that on the way back, I was flying PrivatAir, which is that Geneva-based. Usually they do private jets type. I mean, they do actually private jets, but they have a few charter, like bigger 320s that they are wet leasing whenever people need them. And probably again, for capacity reasons, BA had needed them. I had mentioned a few episodes ago that Ed Parsons, one of our most loyal listener, had been sending a selfie, I think, of him online when he's on one of those PrivatAir. Clearly his looked better than mine, as in his was more modern, but mine had that feature. Half of the plane, in terms of footprint, was business class, because obviously I think that's what PrivatAir caters for generally, is more business class type of audience.
Yeah.
And remember, I sent you a picture. Literally, the leg room was thrice the size of the seat, which was a proper lie-fly seat. It was really bizarre because it was a 2-2 configuration. You would have a pair of 2 seats, nothing for seemingly 5 meters, and another pair of 2 seats, and nothing for 5 meters. It felt like this is for basketball, for NBA players type of aircraft.
Well, they do a lot of sports charters. And when you sent me the picture, I'm sure it was comfortable, but it looked like they'd forgotten to put in a row of seats.
Exactly. Almost that I'd rather have a seat closer. I mean, there was no IFE or whatever, just because, and I know it's bad, I shouldn't do it, but sometimes I would put my feet trying to find a way to actually put it on the seat in front of me. Not on the actual seat, but maybe like on the beginning of the, and it was empty. And literally, I was on row 1, so, the bulkhead, but that doesn't mean anything because every seat had basically almost like a bulkhead with that kind of size. And literally, there was the little thing where you can put the magazines on the bulkhead. I couldn't reach it. I needed to basically stand up to reach it. So I had put my iPad there. That would be my IFE for the flight and to do some emails and stuff. And I couldn't reach it. I mean, so basically at the end, I hid it next to me because I wanted to have it whilst we were taking off. So on both flights, so on the way there, it was a normal, I think 319 or 320, I don't recall now. And on the way back, that PrivatAir flight. And so I spent way more time on the ground than I spent in the air. The pilots on both flights, they were not the same pilots, obviously, said the same. So on the way there, we had to wait 1 hour on the ground at Gatwick before being able to take off. The actual duration of the flight is like 40 minutes. Then because of Amsterdam, you taxi forever. So that was it. But on the way back, that was even worse. We had to wait 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours?
Yes, on the ground because there were, restrictions due to weather in the UK.
Yeah.
And I mean, thank God, again, I had a lie-fly seat, not that I would put it in lie-flat. And they were pretty nice as well. They also offered us some drinks. There was no alcohol, though. And I was like, oh, come on, PrivatAir. I mean, there was alcohol when we were in the air, but not on the ground. And
I know that there's some regulations about that in various countries there where they can't offer alcohol while you're on the ground. And it's something to do with customs and duty as opposed to, the consumption of the alcohol itself.
Very interestingly, though the crew was PrivatAir, clearly, was a wet lease, the speeches, so the what they were saying on the PA and the food was clearly BA's.
Oh, interesting.
So BA basically gave them, because it was literally the same, these little sandwiches you get, the same exact thing I would have gotten on BA. So probably they just replicated. They said, BA said, here's a package and just deal with that, and the announcements they were making were basically BA's as well. For someone who doesn't care about aviation, you would have seen, or she would have seen that it's not a BA aircraft.
Yeah.
But besides, I would have probably felt that, well, I'm doing the same. So interestingly, because you just gave me a lead and I was not going there now, but I was yesterday coming back from Zurich. We had also, again, restrictions on the ground to go back to Heathrow this time. Because of the weather, again, in the UK, there was a lot of fog. There was a lot of delays, actually, for 2-3 days.
We experienced it, too.
Yeah. And there was some winds as well. So anyway, we're on the ground in Zurich. And, you know what they do. They put you all in the plane. They close the door and they say, oh, we have an hour and a half to wait. You're like, oh, my God, really? And, everybody complains because we wish we could have stayed out. But I get it. They want to be able to be leaving as soon as they have a slot.
Yeah.
But that time was one of the first time, to your point. I was in business class, fair enough. The guy comes and says, what would you like to drink? And I'm like, oh, cool. And I said, can I have anything? I said, yeah, of course, anything. I said, can I have white wine? Yeah, and I got white wine. So they were giving for an hour and a half, at least to business class passengers, because I didn't look back, they were giving us alcohol.
Wow.
And cake. And
that's flying ever.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, okay, wow, that's very cool. Usually, they give you water or maybe some apple juice. It's fair. I mean, I get it. Right?
I'd love to know more about the regulations that, and whether they're adhered to or not, or at what point do the regulations stop? Is it when the door closes, or do you have to be in the air or something like that? It's interesting to me, but
yeah, they give me alcohol. So I'm not, guys. Of course, when I say that, like, it's as if we're very satisfied only because we have alcohol, but it's just that it's out of the ordinary. That you would get usually water and not even peanuts or nuts or whatever, mixed nuts, whatever they give you, and that was for me a bit of a standout here. I don't know.
Well, and also I think the other thing that's a standout, and I think I mentioned this to you when you when you sent me the picture, was it's an actual business class product. You have an actual business class seat. Like you said, it's a sort of lie flat, which we always complain about because we never get that in Europe.
No, that's for sure. Even Swiss or all these others, they don't give you. We have a normal seat with a seat in the middle free, right? There's maybe the 320 ones by the BMIs, the BA ones. And Turkish is almost like long haul when you fly to Istanbul. You're like flying almost 5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little different.
Yeah, and there's nothing else. No, really. Anyway, so still, since we're on alcohol, Lufthansa, it's Oktoberfest. Again, we're recording in October, so clearly it's Oktoberfest in Munich.
Yeah.
Lufthansa has actually done something pretty cool. If you're flying, I think, to Munich from Newark, Singapore, or Shanghai, and a few other flights. I don't have the list, but please simply check with Lufthansa. You will have actual kegs on board.
Wow, what a great idea.
Yeah, well, it's Oktoberfest, beer.
So that you'll get a draft beer.
Yeah, exactly. You get an actual draft beer or several during your flight. That applies to all classes, by the way. It's not restricted. If you're flying business class, you'll have also some Oktoberfest foods. I think I've written some down here. Ox tartare with truffle, Arctic char with Riesling sauce, and of course pistachio pesto. I mean, I'm not sure that's actually Oktoberfest. I think it's just a vegetarian option because I'm not sure that Bavarians are very well known for their vegetarian options. But and I think it was only running, because actually Oktoberfest starts at the end of September. I know it doesn't make sense, but I think it's just 3 weeks of just having beers. I don't think that runs anymore by the time we're recording this, but I think for the first week of Oktoberfest, anyone who was landing in Munich would get deplaning an Oktoberfest treat box.
Oh, nice.
Including some, I think, anti-hangover treats.
They're good at this, aren't they, Lufthansa? They seem to be extending. They look for opportunities to do something different and unique. And if it's for PR purposes, whatever. But it sounds like a fun little thing to do. And actually, as weird as it sounds, that's the kind of thing where if I have to choose between a few airlines that are essentially the same, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, that sounds fun. If it's the same price, why the heck not? I'll give that a whirl.
But that's the thing. I mean, the experience in Europe is, pretty much anywhere, but it's commoditized. So that's the little thing that will give you the extra edge you towards one airline. I mean, of course, we know the miles status, etc. Yeah. But if you put that aside, like you said, at a very similar price and in a very commoditized environment where basically for up to 3 hours in Europe, you'll get probably almost the same service everywhere.
Yeah.
These are the little things I will say, oh, why not, right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's exactly the type of differentiation that is needed, especially in Europe when the product is so homogenous.
Absolutely. So this episode is a lot about you guys here because for the past few episodes, we haven't given a lot of shout outs, and this episode 80 seemed like a round number to actually give you guys a lot of shout outs. Not only shout outs, but also because besides the reviews, we've gotten a lot of feedback. As always, I know we keep repeating ourselves. We don't have the time to mention all of you because we're now getting lots of interaction in this. I mean, it's great. Honestly, we love it. But just that we cannot even track everything. Actually, I'm wondering, because I've looked at the stats, and the stats only went super freaking fast in the past week or so. There's two reasons. First, I know that you've been to that travel festival. And I know that you had a slide about layovers, so probably maybe some people actually went on there. And I was on a podcast recently, Plain Talking UK. Hi, guys. It was episode 236. It was a week ago. It's available everywhere, iTunes and everywhere. I think the website is actually plaintalkinguk.com. .co.uk. Guys, I'm so sorry if I'm mistaken that one. So also, they have a pretty big audience, actually, and they're very good, man. I mean, they have 236 episodes, and I think they must have started pretty much at the same time as us. I'm kidding.
Wow.
Yeah, we're bad compared. But the experience was awesome. What was really cool is that the episode is actually recorded live. People can watch the YouTube. We don't do that. I mean, we see each other, but so first of all, for shame, because, people would see what Alex sees every other week, which is the mess behind me in my office, which I was like, oh my God, I need to hide this. I couldn't, obviously. But the cool thing with that, it was the interaction, because there was a live chat and people would ask questions or react to whatever people were.
Wow, that's
four
cool.
of us. Yeah, that was really nice. It was a very fun experience. And obviously, and I'm sorry, guys, at Plain Talking UK, they had to add explicit on iTunes because of me. Because of course I swore. So I'm really, really sorry, guys. Really fun episode, guys. Take a look at it. And for shame, another shame as well, because they have these, man, I mean, we're nothing compared to them. They have this live setup when, of course, they can play with whose camera is showing. So if it's you now or somebody else, and they can do the overlay like content when we're talking, like pictures and websites. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And of course, when it was my turn to talk about layovers, they overlaid our website, and the last episode features that is 68. And we are 80. That's, and I was like, oh my, I was seeing it live. I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad. I haven't updated the website in 12 episodes. Guys, I'm really sorry for that. But anyway, listen to them, Plain Talking UK. I think it's worth giving it a subscribe, because listen to it, guys. It's a fantastic discussion, Plain Talking UK. And by the way, we are finally, layovers, we are on Spotify. If any one of you prefers Spotify over any other app, we are finally there. So that's pretty cool. Actually, you know what? I tried listening to us on Spotify. The experience of Spotify, I mean, obviously Spotify is really good. Subscribing on podcasts and Spotify in general is really well done.
Yeah.
You can download also the episodes for offline and everything. There's no reviews there. So guys, if you listen there, still give us some reviews elsewhere, but it's really well done. If you're interested, or if you just discovered us through Spotify and never heard about us before, hello and welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. And sorry.
So if you're just new, you can also learn that what we're asking our listeners to do is to send us a picture of them listening to us to the podcast. I mean, it was at first a little bit of a light joke, and it became a thing.
Yeah,
and
it
we're
really
very
did become
happy.
a thing.
So I was just going to mention the ones I caught. Hopefully I caught them all. There was 3. First is Han Chicago. So Han has been flying Emirates first, the new one, right? I mean, so he's that kind of, he will take his holidays to fly the most amazing first class products.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. I put the context because of this comment. This is not one of my more glam flights, but at least I get to listen to premium content on my way to DFW from Chicago. So, and he's on United, for shame, Han, on a 737, and he puts a picture of our episode, probably the last one. So thank you so much, Han, for this.
That's cool. Thanks for doing that.
Then we have Richard Laycock, first time flying this airline being, what is that airline actually? May. Isn't that Ukrainian airline? The picture is our 79 episode with the safety leaflet. And I see a tail which is blue and yellow. It's not Ryanair. And it says MAY. And then there's something written clearly in probably some Cyrillic, hence hitting me that it could be something.
Yeah, Ukrainian International. You were absolutely spot on.
Oh, thank you, Alex. So thank you, Richard, for that. So see, we are apparently premium content. We heightening the experience for these guys. I'm not sure. And Ed Parsons, whom I mentioned earlier, says, the Canadian special on the way to you listening to the new YVR episode. So thank you so much, Ed, for sending, which seems to be a picture of your iPad, or is it a computer? iPad, maybe. So thank you, guys. It's really nice to just have our podcast in context.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you so much for that. So now a few reviews. Actually, we've gotten quite a few, actually. First one on Twitter from at S Shocker. I know we mentioned him in a few episodes ago. He says, for anyone that loves travel and airplanes, you have to check out his podcast. Just a couple of guys who converse about the experience and share tips and tricks. Check them out. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. On iTunes, the title is You're Both Gems. I'm not sure about that, but thank you. That's very kind. By Zookeeper134 from Canada. So probably someone would listen or discovered it through our Canadian episode. Guys, I never thought I would listen to podcasts as I'm always rushing, but the two of you have changed that completely. I can't wait for your new episodes, and I can't wait to have the chance to listen to both of you and your stories. I travel a lot, and you have put back some fun into an industry that has become very stressful. Merci beaucoup.
Oh, that's kind.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you so much. From Tonu from Mexico. I'm so glad that we're having a review from Mexico.
Yeah.
Great show. Like it very much. Entertaining, fun, interesting. Thank you so much, Tonu. I'm sorry, I'm using your usernames, of course, guys.
Yeah.
Fly with Alexandra from Germany. Can't stop listening. The best aviation podcast ever. I mean, I don't know about that, but thank you really, really very much. She thanks us. I'm assuming she's a she because Fly with Alexandra, for the experiences, discussing the latest industry, very entertaining, haha. And what she says is something that people seem to be doing, and we're always like, oh my God. I started listening from the most recent episodes and now reached 2015 already, listening backwards.
Did we really start in 2015?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, wow. It's that much flown, right? Spamwise Gam G from the UK was listening to episode 79 on a Virgin Atlantic Dreamliner to LAX. He just says in the review, I started twiddling with the air vents, which I was lucky to have. And yes, they do feel flimsy.
Okay. They are. But at least, as you said, at least you had them.
And one more for iTunes by JJ Planes and Things from Canada. The only podcast I can listen to. Wow, I don't know, but thank you so much, man. This podcast is so good that I don't want to listen to anything else. Keep it up.
Oh, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Even if you don't like it, leave a review.
Yes.
Because that helps us as well.
Yes. And, please encourage your friends to listen to us. Give it a will. That we're on Spotify. Peter Johnson on Facebook, the old geezer, he says, I remember Heathrow's runway change from 28 to 27. It was on July 2nd, 1987. And he adds, so far too long ago for you youngsters. Well, clearly. Okay, my excuse is I was not living in the UK, man. You neither, by the way, in 97?
In 87, no, I was deep in the heart of suburban California.
Now, there you go. See, Peter, that's why we don't
remember. That's why we don't remember it. And also, I was 8 years old.
So now we gotten lots of feedback, Alex, about your stories, traveling to Canada, everything. No, but so first of all, there's lots of corrections, and I'm not going to mention everybody. I think Moore said American Airlines flies 330s to Philadelphia and Charlotte, and has Dreamliners with premium economy. I think everybody tried. Because I got so many messages for you. There is premium economy apparently on Dreamliners, at least the Dash 9s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and because they do not have it on the 8, the 7878, which is what I flew.
John Lawica adds to that. They are slowly adding the premium economy to also the Dash 8.
I would be fascinated to try it on the Airbus as well, because that was my first experience of American Airlines long haul. Was a few years ago. I did Philadelphia, Manchester in business. It was great. And I don't know why I didn't go. Maybe I should try this more often. I think I probably dismissed it as ex-US Airways, therefore probably not reflective of the entire experience, but turns out I was wrong. So
actually had good experience with our US Airways back in the day.
I did too. Certainly not short haul and not America West, but America West, American Airlines is America West. I mean, it was America West acquired US Airways. US Airways acquired American Airlines, to put it incredibly simply.
Yeah, of course. These consolidations efforts are like, and the name that remains might not be the name of the actual company that started it all.
Yeah.
United is actually Continental, let's be honest, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
And John, who has sent us a lot of pictures of him flying AA, is so happy that you not only have flown and you love AA, which adds to the point that I need to try them, actually.
That's good. And because I still worry that I'm sort of riding on some weird bubble and that I've just been incredibly lucky with my experiences. But if it's universal, or at least there are other people going, yeah, you're right, that's encouraging. I only have one American flight on the radar at the moment, and that's a short hop from Vegas to Chicago next week. But I'm a little bit sad, actually, that I don't have more, because I do have 2 long haul flights, and they're both with BA. Not that is what it is.
I was supposed to fly to, remember, Atlanta tomorrow, which is postponed. I almost thank God, because otherwise I would have not been in London forever. So, and I was looking at AA because of you talking about it in these podcasts. It was like, okay, I need to go AA this time because Alex keeps raving about them.
Yeah,
you're an influence.
I stand by it. I stand by it.
So one correction before I go on with some other feedbacks. One correction about something I said. We talked about that Maldivian new runway. Yes. And I said that the inaugural flight, the actual inaugural flight, not that Air India flight, the actual inaugural flight was a 380. Yes, it was not Emirates. It was Etihad. So really, I'm sorry. Etihad did fly the 380 there. They have one. I've flown it actually with the ruler is on the side. There's a special livery. It's very nice.
Because it's his year, isn't it? Or the next
exactly, the year of Zayed. I'm really sorry because I'm not sure about the name of the ruler. And the cool thing about that 380 when it landed is actually the first officer was Maldivian.
Oh, nice.
And he actually landed the plane in the Maldives. It's nice. Come on. I mean, it's really nice.
That's great.
By the way, if you guys fly Etihad, Etihad's T4 here at Heathrow, T4 Lounge is now run by number 1. They changed the name, so it's no more the Etihad Lounge, which kind of shows the state of Etihad nowadays. It's actually, the name is pretty long. It's the house, home of Etihad Airways and other leading airlines.
Oh, that's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure it's great, by the way, because it looks like a pretty premium. So, but shows that, Etihad is not pushing its name forward as much as it used to. Talking about Etihad, and I don't know, because I forgot if we ever mentioned him, Sahid Mehairi, I'm not sure I pronounced your name correctly, on Twitter, loves our episodes, and he's a cadet pilot for Etihad Airways. He says it's nice to hear that the airline is still doing well. Yeah, it is, Sahid, and thank you, and I hope that you will fly us someday.
Yeah.
Because we really love having actually pilots or soon-to-be pilots listen to us. Thank you so much, Sahid. Yeah, so now to Canada, not to Vancouver. Alex, your description of Vancouver had so much feedback that we won't have time to cover everything.
I'm so intrigued by this.
It shows something which we kind of saw in the stats. We have a lot of people listening to us from Canada. And yeah, well, they are engaged because they all kind of wrote us, whether on emails, on Facebook, on Twitter. I mean, nothing is bad, but they all, wanted to make small corrections. So I love this, which means you're true AV geeks, guys. First, yes, we know the Y in front of all the 3-letter names of airports. It's for weather stations identifiers. I think we've gotten at least 25 people telling us that.
But that doesn't explain why it's Y. It just explains the function of an airport code.
Okay, so Alex, now you just opened a can of worms because I'm going to get 50 messages in the next episode explaining why it's Y. I'm going to go just mention the first person that told us that, Justin. And Justin, it's really fun because I believe, Justin, that you've opened the Twitter account just to answer that. Because Justin, you only follow us. And you ever sent only one tweet, and that was to say that. So thank you so much, Justin, for taking the time to open the Twitter account just for us. We actually, and I had James Simpson also mentioning that, and interestingly, and I didn't know that, I didn't realize that, he says it's also true for Brazil. A lot of the airports in Brazil starts with the letter G. And I never realized that, actually, that it's true when I think about it, GGRU, et cetera, et cetera. But he says not all Canadian airports starts with Y. You have ZTM, ZNL, ZVL. God knows where they are. I have no clue, James. Alex, I don't know where they are. But you say that they are also airports that start with other letters. Also NE3. 3, really? Is there numbers in airport identifiers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Alex, you say that so with so much.
The only reason why
confidence.
I know that is because one of the airports that I used to fly to when I was learning how to be a pilot was an uncontrolled airport that had a letter in its call sign, which was C Charlie 83, Byron Airport in Byron, California.
So could it be that actually the fact that there's a number indicates it is not one of major airport? Maybe there could be something like that.
Very
or
possibly.
Just they ran out of letters, obviously, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's actually it's a good question. We'll have to find out and talk about that next time we record.
Yeah, or I will get 150 messages telling us, oh yeah, I know what there's a number into.
Yeah. Let us know.
I think, Alex, we reached that point where, we had a good number of listeners, but now that it's increasing, we basically, it's not about being outnumbered, it's we're outsmarted.
Yeah,
clearly.
That's exactly what
Okay, now people are like way smarter than us.
We're tapping into a much greater source of knowledge.
Guys, you are all our airline Wikipedia, so please tell us what to say in the next episode. So now, a very, very big email by Pat Hosford, who's based at YYJ Victoria. Pat, I'm not going to go through your entire email because it was really long, but thank you so much for actually telling us all these details about your experiences. First, one thing that Alex, that not only him, but other people have told us, apparently your experience of having the immigration so packed was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, because I even gotten pictures. One is by Edward Slater at Edward Slater 90 with completely empty immigration. So maybe you were just unlucky, or maybe it's a specific time of the day. Because everybody said, and I think I've gotten at least 5 messages of people saying, well, usually it's actually pretty fast.
Yeah, I would love to know what time of day it was, because I think I looked at the arrivals board in the several hours I had available to me to do nothing else except stand in a queue. And there were a lot of international flights arriving at that time. And it was about just after lunch. So I don't know if maybe that was something to do with it, but it didn't feel unprecedented, but it did feel unusual.
When you say after lunch, does it mean that you think that the immigration people are still digesting their food and being slower?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
So Pat says that they are refining over time these immigration procedures. The one thing that he says that is, and the way he says it makes me believe it's not fully clear for passengers. You should be told in the aircraft or when you are on the ground by some staff that if you are transferring passengers, you get a little colored card which will get you entry into a separate and much shorter line up at the customs. So if you're transferring, you have some kind of fast track.
There were a lot of people that were transiting and seemed to be on tight connections that tapped officials on the shoulder and said, my flight leaves in 45 minutes. And the answer was sort of, there's nothing they weren't rude. They were just sort of, there's nothing I can do. So it did feel temporary, and it did feel, like I said, unusual, but the protocols were in place to deal with this many people. Like I said, they had this, if you know Vancouver Airport, before you go down those escalators into the immigration hall, there was another set of queues before you were even allowed to go to that. They were sort of releasing 30 people at a time to go through from this temporary holding pen. So it may have been a one-off, but it was, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, of course. And we all have, by the way, guys, needless to say, all our experiences at every airport that we talk about at each end of our episodes are very personal and opinionated. Sometimes we've been only once and it was a shitty experience. Sometimes it was amazing, and please call us out. And thank you. So I'll continue. Actually, the one thing that Pat adds, I was a bit surprised you didn't think more of Vancouver Airport. It smiles better than the dump down the road at SeaTac.
Vancouver Airport's way better than Seattle.
There you go. See, Pat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. My apologies for not making that clear. Seattle, you heard my experiences. It was so crappy that the crew got lost trying to get to our airplane. But it's so representative of American airport infrastructure at the moment, bar a few. And it's so nice to see all these stories lately of multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects.
New York. Yeah.
New York is especially, and Chicago really needs it. Well, I should clarify, O'Hare really needs it. I've never been to Midway. But yes, no, to Vancouver, it's clear that that's an airport that is undergoing some pretty substantial investment.
But I'm not going to wait for that to happen. I still need to go soon.
No.
James Simpson adds, I think I mentioned him earlier, at J2Simso. He actually does experience sometimes long immigration queue in Canada. I think that's why he signed up for Nexus, which gives him U.S. global entry and pre-check for, I think, $50 every 5 years. Is that going to be correct? It seems to be very low.
Good value if that's the case.
Yeah. And he says 5 minutes immigration anywhere.
That's the way to do it.
I think you need to be American or Canadian to do Nexus, though. I don't think it opens
probably. Although I know that the TSA pre and global entry is available now to the Brits, so jump on that.
I need to check if I can do this. I'm still not a Brit probably next year. I don't know if I'm going to ask for maybe,
add to your collection of nationalities.
To prevent them for, dumping me because of Brexit. So, Pat, I'll come back to your email in a second. It's very interesting. I'll go to Kenny Davis. I think that was on Facebook. He says that Rouge, so Air Canada Rouge, is actually not meant to compete with WestJet. WestJet competes directly with Air Canada. WestJet does have its own ultra low cost airline called Swoop.
Yes.
And the Rouge thing was a big problem with a lot of frequent flyers for Air Canada because they started to put Rouge flights on traditional Air Canada routes without actually basically telling you. So you would know, you would enter, and yeah, exactly. And you can Google getting rouged, which is apparently a thing, which means, you getting effed. Kenny adds that I've flown Rouge and I avoid it at all costs. That's,
wow. I realized my mistake shortly after we finished recording that when I was just looking on Plane Finder and I saw the breadth of destination that Rouge covers. But it's really interesting to hear about this because I'm still not 100% sure the difference in product and market and price. So if you've flown on Rouge and on Air Canada, tell us.
Look, you're giving me that because
there we are.
Email he had his very first flight on an Air Canada Vickers Viscount in the late 60s. That flight was a Christmas light flight out of Winnipeg. It was just flying in circles over the city for half an hour to watch the Christmas lights.
That's so cool. And I tell you what, that is the plan to do it because the Viscount has huge windows, absolutely gargantuan. If you're ever in London, take the train up to Duxford, which is a lovely museum, and they've got one which you can go inside. There might even be one at Brooklands Museum as well, where they also have a Concorde. But it's got the windows are absolutely huge. So I can see why you would choose that for any kind of observational flight, be it for Christmas lights or enemy aircraft.
To me, I know it will sound very cliche, but to me, like having Air Canada flying over the city to watch the Christmas light is so Canadian.
It's so
adorable in a very good
right?
way. I would love to do that, right? I mean, oh my God. So he's flown a lot with Air Canada, and he doesn't like Rouge. He says the seats are awful on Rouge. The fleet is of varying quality. Even he says Premium Rouge. I love these names now. They go Premium Rouge, which clearly seems to be like a slightly higher product. He doesn't like the seats. And so he adds that the on-time performance is pretty good. He's never missed a connection. He cannot really I don't think he disses Rouge. I think he just says it's not as good as Air Canada, the mainline product.
Yeah, I mean, it is a low-class carrier, but if you look at some of the places that they fly to, it's really, everywhere like Warsaw, Zagreb, Algiers, Athens. I mean, a lot of these are seasonal, but it's really rather extraordinary. The breadth of, they have 55 airplanes, Osaka, Honolulu. So it's
seemingly more leisure though.
Yeah,
I'm just reading your list. I don't know. So by
Nagoya, Nice, Palm Springs. I mean, it runs the gamut. So I don't know how much of an overlap it is in terms of destination, but.
Probably not a lot, actually.
No.
Probably all these traditional airlines are trying to lower costs, and they will actually offload passenger to their more low-cost structure when it comes especially to leisure destinations. So Nice is probably a very leisure destination, for instance, South of France or Osaka, I don't know. Maybe because there's a lot of Japanese living in Canada, so maybe they just return to their families for Odon or for other holidays.
Yeah.
So I would gather that the main reason that you fly, I mean, of course, the airline saves money, but having probably a structure that is less expensive, but probably it's more leisure destination. They don't expect as many business travelers. To be honest, I don't know, but it seems to be the kind of a logical
Yeah, definitely.
thing.
That's certainly the premise of the airline at the very least.
Last bit about Pat, he adds that the annoying curiosity about Air Canada is that it's usually cheaper and more pleasant to fly to Heathrow or Hong Kong with them than it is to go to Newfoundland or to the north.
That's interesting.
Pat, I believe it's just competition. Probably there's so much choice to go to Heathrow or Hong Kong from Canada, whether via obviously Air Canada, but others by doing a small layover down south in the US or other airlines, that they have to compete. Whereas maybe to Newfoundland, they're alone or almost alone, and they can screw you on price and on service, and you don't have a choice anyway. Maybe that's just that, right?
The market does seem very small in Canada in terms of choice, especially for domestic. When you look around Vancouver Airport, there aren't that many other airlines, frankly. So I can understand that might be a bit frustrating.
Well, and he agrees with you. You summed it, Alex, pretty well with the word fair. Was it fair you used? Yeah,
Fine.
Not nice.
Fine.
Nobody can figure that out. Have you not gotten a picture of you saying nice, I think?
Yeah, I did. I was meme-ified for saying the same word over and over again. But really, it's the best word to describe my Air Canada experience.
Fine.
This is fine.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot, Pat. And he had something that the color you were looking for, Alex, to describe Air Canada's livery is toothpaste.
Oh my God, that's absolutely perfect. That's exactly what it is. I don't hate it. It's not bad, but that's the perfect color. That's exactly the word, toothpaste.
I love it. So talking about toothpaste, let's stay in a very similar shade of color because I want to have your thoughts, Alex. You're a lover of Hong Kong, obviously, and of Cathay Pacific. You've lived there. It's your heart. Cathay Pacific used to have also a kind of toothpastey color. Now it's kind of gone, but it was, admittedly.
Yeah.
And this story that we didn't cover in the last episode, but I mean, everybody's been talking about it. This livery, when they missed the F, and it says Cathay Pacific.
Yeah.
Do you actually believe that such a mistake can happen?
Well, yeah, I think so. I don't know why you would do this intentionally. I think when you have a font that is in certain letters looks very similar in its structure, that it's not surprising this doesn't happen more often. To be frank, I mean,
no, I don't know, because it seems to me that such a glaring mistake of missing an entire letter on the livery on the side, and you're like, these letters in real life are probably like 10 feet high.
Yeah.
Like they're huge. I mean, if it's really a mistake, which probably is, kudos to Cathay Pacific for actually, because they're the one who revealed it.
They tweeted it out, which is exactly the way to handle it.
Yes. But hence, my question was like, because they got so much good PR out of it, like, did they actually do it on purpose? No, I don't think so.
No, I think if you look at the spacing, if the I was also the vertical of the F, then you can see it would have actually fit perfectly. But yeah, someone just wasn't paying attention. I don't know. I'd be very interested to know how much a mistake like that would cost to fix. Thousands and thousands.
Yeah, and also you kind of block the aircraft a little bit more on the ground. You kind of fly it, and, I don't know. Anyway, similarly, in the UK, but that was not exactly the same type of mistake this time, Thomas Cook. So Thomas Cook created a new club for millennials, whatever, the Cook's Club. And, so you're going to holidays with DJs and cool hotels, trendy, whatever, to advertise this on some of the airplanes and some of the livery. They replaced the traditional Thomas Cook one with like this I love Cook's Club thing. The only problem is that when the door opens and slides to the side, it actually reads I love cocks.
Yeah.
Which
again, and there's a lot of people saying,
was that not on purpose? Because when I read millennial, whatever, I think Tinder. So did they know what they were doing?
See, that's what a lot of people are thinking. Like, did you do that on purpose? I mean, it's very aggressive if it is, but it was amusing to say the least. I can't. Did they do the same thing that Cathay did and kind of own it
This time it's not themselves who put it. It's like some... I don't remember who did it. Actually, maybe it's old nowadays, you never know. If it's you and me sitting in front of this, let's do this. And then let's have someone actually take the picture and let someone tweet it with enough followers that I don't know. But, it's just random fun.
Exactly.
Whatever,
it's not the end of the world.
It's nothing. No, but I like it. And again, good PR. I mean, everybody talked about it. So we are in Zurich for the countries of trains. Trains for Emirates is not something that you would actually link to. They have added code shares with Trenitalia. If you are using a train in Italy, you can now earn Skyward miles. This is pretty, I wish I could do that with trains in Switzerland and trains in Japan. Probably in Japan, actually, I don't know. Probably you can maybe do it. So Alitalia is in the midst of all these crises of money. They gotten their bridge loan, which, again, I'm not sure it's legal. And now the bridge loan was supposed to be reimbursed by December. But kind of everything tells that they will extend the deadline because they're not able. And they are forcing, hence the link with the train operator to basically take over Alitalia, which makes no freaking sense at all.
Doesn't make any sense. And this all comes down to, and we've touched on this in the past, it all comes down to they only want the Italians running it, which, they rejected Lufthansa, they rejected EasyJet, they rejected... Who else? They rejected somebody else on Ryanair on those same grounds. And it's sort of cutting off one's nose to spite one's face. Just, we want an Italian organization to run it. And you can kind of see their point.
Of course.
To say, well, they do transport, it's basically the same thing. It's just asking for trouble. It's just asking for trouble. I think you can put in the same provisions to retain a sense of Italian... Italian-esque, yeah, that's exactly it.
No, and I think most importantly, and I know they want to save jobs, and I get it. I mean, really, I get it. We'll talk in a minute about another story like that. But should you not revamp and restart, almost say what Swiss did after Swissair or Brussels Airlines after Sabena, and say, okay, we're gonna regroup. We're gonna take only 10 aircrafts, nimble, with no legacy product, with no depth and whatever, and we're gonna relaunch, because it's a recipe for disaster to say we're gonna maintain the exact same route with the exact same people. It didn't work twice. They've been in bankruptcy 3 times already, and it's going to be another, in 5 years, not even 5 years actually, we'll have another bankruptcy. Yeah. And by the way, they haven't been able, they're still missing, they want 20 to 30% of the new airline, whatever, it's still going to be called Alitalia, to be owned by a foreign entity. They couldn't find one, so now they're going to very rich oil countries to beg for money, and it's
incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it is. Because I think Italy deserves an actual proper...
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that the people that are missing out here are not just the people of Italy, but also the businesses that depend on having a functioning and respected and well-run airline to serve tourism as an industry within Italy.
Yeah, and you told me that actually this morning, I didn't read it, that Linate is about to close down fully. Wow.
Yeah, for 3 months. Well, I mean, they're closing it down for 3 months because if you've been to that airport, it's at capacity. It's bad. It's very temporary. They've sort of extended it with these temporary buildings. They're resurfacing the runway, and they have a plan. It sounds like a sensible plan. You have to do anything with asphalt and tarmac in the summer so that it cures correctly. So, it is what it is. 'Tis the season, I suppose.
So you flew to Glasgow with BA?
I did, again, with Steve Flyer. I think I told you this. I had probably the best cabin crew experience I've ever had on BA. On that hour and a bit flight from London City up to Glasgow on an E170. What do they call them on BA? In-flight service manager? That role, I can't remember what they're called, was also looking after the Club Europe cabin. And she was so genuinely friendly and bubbly and enthusiastic and nice and just good at her job that I gave her my golden ticket.
The golden ticket. Yeah. For those who don't know, this is what, as a gold status member at BA, we get a little card that you can hand over to someone who's been particularly good, or you particularly appreciate a service from anywhere on the ground, in the air, and you have it. Is it still a paper one?
You can do it online through your executive club account, which is what I did. And
but you need the name.
You need the name.
Don't just hand it over. Okay.
You still get a physical one, which I didn't have on me, but I made sure to write down her name, the flight number, dates, and I tweeted it out to British Airways as well, just to say how good I thought she was. But it was so good. Like I've said at the beginning of the show, I find the service on those routes, hard and soft product, really, really good. But this was something else. And in an hour flight, for her to do what she did, which was provide the service, and when she needed to go back and help her colleagues in economy, she said, "If you need anything, just ding and I'll come." It was so good and so impressive and so natural and genuine. She recognized passengers that were clearly frequent travelers on that route and had banter with them when. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And you could tell that they knew her and liked her and remembered her for her effervescence and her charm. I was so impressed. So impressed.
Actually, it's something that I wish other airlines would have. Like, of course, you can always ask for the name of someone or mark it down and then send an email or tweet or a customer form or whatever. But that little idea of having a card, an actual something that you can give to someone as a gesture of thanks, is very rewarding for that person when he or she receives it. I wish other airlines would implement something similar. I just wish that I would have, like, almost on the app of BA, something I could press a button and say, here, scan a QR code on your badge or something, and that would be you. I don't know. Anyway, but, because sometimes I'm worse than you, Alex. I say, okay, I need to remember that name, and like 5 minutes later, I'm through immigration.
What was the name again? Well, which is why I forced myself in that moment to write it down.
Yeah, you're right. I should do that because it's really. I've had a similar experience. First, I was flying, like I said, at the top of the show, waiting for very long on the ground with Swiss back to Heathrow from Zurich, and the head of cabin, whatever. Again, I don't know the names how they call us either. Chef de cabine is the name in French, and I think they use it actually even in German. The person was amazing, and I wrote down his name this time because I had like 80 minutes to do it, of course, because I was on the ground. But I wish I could have, besides just saying thank you, you were great, having something to give him.
More tangible, yeah.
I know it seems a bit, but I mean, it's nice. I mean, the person was truly great, handling the delays, handling us waiting, handling everything. Even the PA announcements were very cheery, fun. They had some banter between him and the pilot. They're blocked on the ground for weather reasons. There's not much they can do right?
about it, yeah. Right?
But the good thing is to try to make it a bit more fun and engage once that happens. Well, kudos to them, because I'm sure, for them, it was not the first flight of the day. So it's probably been maybe the third round already. And it's not fun for them either to be blocked on the ground for 90 minutes, right?
No, exactly. That's not fun for them at all. And I think actually that's when their work is probably the hardest, because tempers start to fray, patience runs out, and that's when you're having to manage difficult situations well.
Actually, when I was on that flight, I told you, there was this person, I was in 1F, and there was this person in 1A, arrived the last on the flight, and seemed to have like 3 crew handling her stuff. And I was like, oh, is this some kind of like Hans, the highest status you can have on Swiss Lufthansa Group, which means you need to fly 600,000 miles every 2 years. So that's a lot of freaking miles to get that. I will never get to that level because you need to only fly Lufthansa. I think you can, if you live in Germany, you can, talking about trains, since this is a bit of a theme of this episode, you can actually earn up to 100,000 miles by Deutsche Bahn, which is the train system in Germany. So I'm sure that if you're an executive, you can reach that 300,000. Anyway, I thought she was, some very important, And then, when we were leaving the aircraft at Heathrow, I was first because I always like to be first out of the aircraft, especially because it was late. I wanted to go back home. And I looked back and I'm like, God, I know this. I know her. And for like 2 hours talking about not writing down names, whatever, I was like in the tube. I was took the Piccadilly to go back home. I was like, who is she? Well, she was in Games of Thrones and Hunger Games. And of course, then I was like, oh, of course she had all that attention because she's like some superstar from, I think she was at the Zurich festival. Her name for those Games of Thrones fan is, Natalie Dormer. I think she played Tyrell, the princess, whatever, in Games of Thrones. I wish I would have sat next to her because then I would have talked about something more fun than just looking at my bad entertainment on my iPad. So from that to Primera Air, exactly 1 year after Monarch, which was another airline in the UK, failed. Primera Air failed miserably. Spectacularly. I mean, only like a month ago, they were announcing routes from Frankfurt to like Newark and Boston, and from Madrid to also Canada. And they were putting routes everywhere. It seemed that they would be like bigger than Norwegian within 3 months. And then boom, bust, gone, bye-bye.
Yeah. And with
crazy.
I think, they stranded a lot of people, much like Monarch did. That required the help and cooperation of governmental organizations, airport authorities, other airlines to repatriate these poor people that were stuck or had their holidays or honeymoons or whatever ruined. I think what pisses me off so much about situations like this is there's no way they as an operating airline did not see the writing on the wall.
Exactly. That's my biggest problem as well.
And did not put any. They just drove it into the ground. And it's been interesting. I think actually it was you that surfaced a few of these tweets that were from cabin crew that were like, we got no warning. We had no idea.
And they were left stranded. It seemed that Primera Air just disappeared. Like they left literally in 5 seconds. Oh, okay. We didn't make it. Bye-bye. It sounds really, I mean, at least trying to, and other airlines were amazing. WOW Air and others took for free some of the crew that were stranded, because literally some of the crew were stranded in the US, couldn't come back, and the planes were impounded. Actually, Stansted impounded one of the planes like literally 10 minutes before the announcement was made because the company hadn't paid the fees, the ground fees. So imagine, I mean, Stansted, you're home because the crew was mostly from the UK, but you're in the US, you're stranded, and the airline doesn't give you anything to go back.
Yeah.
And how are you supposed to go back home? And other airlines, WOW is one that I caught, flew people for free back home, like crew. It's really nice.
That is nice. And I think a BA did something
I think so,
similar.
Too.
Yeah.
I think it's a story. This airline, it was a low cost. It actually exists since a long time, 2003. It used to be called JetX. It was truly a charter airline in the north, in Scandinavia. And what they did is that when they had extra capacity on any of the charter tour operator type of flights, they would sell the extra capacity to the public. And then I think what they said is that, oh, okay, actually, we're quite successful at selling these 10 seats we have extra. So let's turn the model around and let's become an actual low-cost airline and only sell to the public. And I think they started to do that like 4 years ago, maybe, which seemed to be working okay. I think the downfall was really when they tried to become a long-haul low-cost, so basically Norwegian, because then they started adding all these routes. That was only like about 6 months ago, and were not able to deliver anything. And to your point, they knew because they're based in the EU, so anyone who flies from the EU or to the EU would have the EU compensation scheme.
Exactly.
They'd never paid. So, meaning they didn't have the means to pay, but that's shady.
That is shady. That's and it sounds like that because it was part of this broader travel group. The directors of this company are fine. They're still protected. They still have their money, and they just. One hopes that there's some sort of at least civil penalties for this to those responsible, but it really doesn't sound like there will be.
They say that they were due to be delivered some Airbus planes that were more fuel efficient because they had 767s and I don't remember. Yeah. Okay, and maybe there was a little delay, but I mean, they were literally, if you just go back to their Twitter account, they were announcing a new route every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It seems to me that they were like seeing what sticks.
Yeah, spread vetting.
Announce anything and let's see if people buy it, and then we'll figure out a way to actually put them in a plane. It's completely mismanaged for me. It's hardly an excuse to me. And they mentioned in their final words, if you want, that they had a plane that was discarded for corrosion.
Yeah.
And I went on Flyer Talk and airliners. Nobody is able to figure out a plane that was supposedly discarded. Is that a outright lie? I don't know.
Because I was going to mention that as well, that they lost capacity because they had to discard a plane for corrosion, but they had one of the youngest fleets in Europe. So there's something fishy about this whole thing.
Every morning, they were just in the plus, and every afternoon, they would get in the minus. They were that close to bankruptcy for quite a long time, I'm sure, actually. And they were due to court in Denmark in a few days, actually.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Because of their labor practices. You know, they were basically saying, oh, no, but our crew is actually based there, and they were like trying to lower the cost base, obviously, of everything. And I'm pretty sure that they would have lost. So did they announce bankruptcy? Because, okay, well, anyway, we're losing money. We have all this compensation to pay, plus we're due in court. Oh, F it.
Let's torpedo the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Anyway, too bad. And you know what? What pains me is the way they treated like we said earlier, the way they treated their employees. But some of these employees, actually quite a big number, were ex-Monarch employees.
Yeah, so they double whammy.
I mean, really, at least have the courtesy, the elegance of treating your employees on the way out in a proper manner. At least just drive them back home. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it was just
disgusting.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Disgusting. And like you said, they'll be fine. And probably they will resurface in 3 years with another company or something, right?
Yeah, and will we be any wiser? No, because we'll see 49-pound flights to New York.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. Talking about very old aircraft, for those who fly BA, they are extending their wet lease with Air Belgium, which is this very old A340. I think it's still to Abu Dhabi, so guys, avoid flying BA to Abu Dhabi, because I'm sure that's the worst aircraft you can fly to. From zeros to hero, that story, there was this sad also story about this massive Indonesian earthquake, followed even by a tsunami. Wow, the image is like pretty staggering. Yeah. There was this air traffic controller at the airport at Mutiara Sishal Jufri Airport, which is in Indonesia. The earthquake started. There's an aircraft on the ground. The runway is actually being divided in two, so you see the cracks. Yeah. The guy stays in tower to make sure that the aircraft leaves, and then thinking that the tower would actually crumble down, jumped out of the window, and sadly later died of the injuries. But man, that's how you should behave. I'm not saying that you should die, but helping others and not leaving.
Yeah, he really is the definition of a hero, because that plane would have been in bad shape if it had stayed where it was. And the rest of the tower was evacuated, and it did start crumbling. And so, boy, I mean, talk about a brave guy.
Talking about shaking, the Trent engine. So I think you sent me the story. Not only they have their current issues of trying to figure out what's wrong with the engine, they found yet another one. Blades are deteriorating faster than expected. There are additional groundings. There will be at least 120 engines affected. God, this story is never ending.
It really is. It's been years now too. So where does this go? What happens? I mean, you still fly out of Heathrow, and there's Virgin ones and there's BA ones. Any airport in the world, Tokyo, where I'll be in a few weeks, is the same deal with ANA.
Crazy.
What a joke.
But since in this podcast we are equal opportunity and equal blaming, since I just blame something that deals with Boeing, I need to blame something that goes with Airbus. Airbus also has issues with the engine on their 320neo. It's actually United Technologies, so it's Pratt & Whitney. So they also have, it's not as big as the one we just mentioned, but they will be also need to have checks and groundings. The big problem here is that they are at capacity with their engine manufacturing. that Lufthansa says, well, we'll have to be on our own dealing with that issues for a few months until they can come back to us. So the fixes they must not be life-threatening, otherwise, of course. But the fixes won't be coming before November, December. So you see, every aircraft had its own teething issues. Lufthansa has announced their new business class product. We mentioned it a few times. The one thing that I didn't know is that, Alex, that will actually be something that I will love. Their seat will mold to your back. So when you are sleeping, and if you're one of these sleepers that sleeps on the side, the seat will actually absorb slightly your shoulder. So you're really
like
kind
one
of
of
flat.
those sort of foam memory mattresses.
Yes. To me, the other thing that I love is that the length of the Lifeline seat will be 220 centimeters. So that's 87 inches probably. It's really long for someone tall.
That is long.
That's really cool for someone tall as me. And Turkish is also announcing its new business seat. Next year will be the same one you have in SAS, Qantas, or Delta One without the door. Actually, let's go back 2 seconds on BA, because we just mentioned at the very top of the show these getting rouged, right? Yeah. It seems that BA is doing a bit the same with Level, actually, because they are now replacing some of their traditional BA routes with Level routes, which is not really, I don't know, the Barcelona, of course, they're all very leisure destinations, Barcelona, Malaga, Venice, Ibiza, but Paris as well, Charles de Gaulle, Larnaca, Alicante, Valencia, etc.
They're going to be operated by Level. What kind of airplane?
321s.
Oh, that's interesting. So where are those planes coming from? That's what I'd like to know. Are they?
Gatwick. Oh, you mean which airline they're coming from?
Yeah.
Probably Iberia?
Oh, Iberia, right. Okay, that makes more sense.
I don't know. I mean, I just made an assumption here. Some of our new Outsmart listeners will correct me, but yeah, think Iberia. But actually, you know what? You will know that it's Level, because what we said about getting rouged is exactly what Air France is doing, and you're getting Juned.
Yeah.
Because they are actually now replacing, if you fly from Manchester, for instance, in the UK, fly to Paris, you'll be actually in the June product. Same to Madrid, to Saint Martin. Okay, Saint Martin is, we covered that in one episode actually, is one of these, but it still means that the difference of the product here is massive.
Yeah.
You have very old aircrafts with June, but you still buy them on the Air France website, and probably it says operated by June. I mean, yeah, but I don't think it's super fair. But anyway.
No, it's not, because that is always in the smallest text as well, and it's depending on whatever OTA or even some of the airlines you use, they are not very obvious that it's this is the product you're going to be getting.
Yeah, but come on, Alex, it's an airline for millennials. I mean,
oh Lord.
I hate these kind of things. Talking about still low cost, have you heard of the airline called Easy Sky or Easy Fly?
I don't think I have.
I hadn't either, but EasyJet clearly has, and he's going to court and saying the term easy is only hours and hours only, which, to be fair, when you have something called Easy Sky, I don't know.
If it's in the same industry, I can understand being overprotective, but they are ruthless, Easy Group as a whole with this type of thing.
Exactly, because Netflix just announced a show called Easy, and EasyJet is going after them.
Yeah, see, that's ridiculous.
I love, because Netflix PR answered very nicely. They said, viewers can tell the difference between a show they watch and a play they fly in.
Yeah, but exactly. And that's exactly why I will get thrown out of any court that has any sense of integrity.
Exactly. Have you seen, since we're talking about entertainment, Netflix, and entertaining news, that crazy, surreal Drew Barrymore interview by Egyptair?
Those are the perfect words: crazy and surreal. I don't.
What is that?
It sounds like it was made up. The Drew Barrymore's PR people have said this interview never happened. The airline and the author, who is president or something to do with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, says that it is legit. So I think probably the truth is in between.
At first I thought, is that a real bad translation? But come on, some of the stuff she says would have never, if I'm her publicist, I would never let her saying something like that. And the sentences made no sense. It really doesn't make any sense, honestly. But to your point, there's somebody called Timothy Caldas on Twitter. He flies a lot with Egyptair, and he says, I've been collecting Egyptair's magazine, Hubris, it's called, for years. And every single edition has that kind of stuff, apparently. The content is made up, the grammar is completely effed up, and there's a lot of fake interviews. So apparently, if you fly Egyptair, it's
hilarious.
Crazy, right?
Is it hilarious? I don't know if it's hilarious or disturbing, but...
I know that's the definition of fake news or fake airline news or fake airline content news. I don't know. Well, so we are about to go to the airport in Zurich. First, Swiss, since you flew first. You flew Swiss.
I did.
If you fly now to Geneva, so I told you guys that Geneva, Swiss, including with the Bombardier, A220, you had a different food option. I'm going to ask you about your food experience, but the food option is sandwiches. You can also have and that's especially, of course, if you are in economy, you can have food being delivered to you at the gate prior to boarding in Geneva.
A lot of airports are starting to adopt this, and I think it's a really good idea. As long as you... There's a massive but on this, which is if it's some stinky ass, whatever it might be, consider your fellow passenger.
But I think they're doing this. Airports are taking over because they will be able to limit that. Because if you do it on your own, you will take the stinky, like curry on the pizza.
Which for me is fine, but it may not be fine for everybody.
So, no, absolutely. So how was your flight with Swiss?
Yeah, really. Again, like I said at the top of the show, it was really impressive. That airplane is great. The service was friendly and attentive. And of course, I loved the chocolate. In economy on the CS100, I feel like the chocolate was bigger. No, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the chocolate they have in the lounge. I'm wrong. But I love that little touch. I was in economy on the way over, but I noticed that on the CS100, there's no divider. Curtain. There's just a sign that's stuck in the back of one of the seats saying this is where business class starts.
I'm wondering if it's either because I think that shouldn't be the case. The overhead bins are slightly asymmetrical, so maybe
that's what it is.
Or simply they say, it's just a cost thing. So you know what, just like we'll just stop whenever we have more.
So the only differentiator there is the service. I think they blocked the seat next to you.
Yeah,
which is that is what it is, and it was fine. Lovely big windows. I thought the service was great. I thought the food was great. Again, it's sort of a salad or cold cuts, delicious, fine. Zurich Airport, I think we were one of the last flights to arrive before the airport sort of
there's a curfew
down. We arrived at maybe 11:30 at night, and it was a remote stand, but again, very easy, in and out of the E-gates, no problem at all.
Were the E... sorry, the E... Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, the electronic...
No, the gates the electronic gates. Sorry. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that was fine. It was a very swift arrivals process, and of course, getting to Zurich proper from Zurich Airport is a joy.
Yeah.
Because you basically buy a single ticket, and you can get on any form of public transport you want. Any of the trains... Any of the trams, if you want to go slower, and you taught me this and we experienced this, any of the buses, if that's what you feel like doing. But it's a 12-minute journey on the train to Zurich Hauptbahnhof, right in the middle of town. And what a wonderful experience. But the best part about that airport, by far, is the observation deck, which you pay to enter. It's airside. And it was 5 francs to enter. You go through the same level of security, scrutiny that you would if you were a passenger. Yeah,
so sorry to interrupt. It means that anyone in Zurich or anywhere can go. It's public access.
Yeah, right? And with being only 12 minutes from the city center, if you're even remotely interested in planes or you have kids that are, go, because it basically takes up the entire bottom floor of one of the piers, for want of a better word, with the gates.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got, I don't know when did you go when you were here last time?
No, to the deck, no. I was just, the last time I went, this is why I asked you actually, because the last time I went was more than a year ago. So I wanted to see if it's changed a little bit.
It's so good because it wraps all the way around. And at the very end, you're sort of standing looking at one of the runways. And it's got a kids' play area with trampolines, which Greg spent a lot of time on. It's got these incredible, when you go to any tourist area with a vista, these binocular things that you look at, but these had augmented reality. So you could point it at an airplane and it would tell you what it was.
This is so freaking amazing.
Yeah, and as well as points of interest on the airport and beyond. So you could point at an airplane as it was taxiing and it would tell you it's this type of airplane, this airline going from here to there. At every gate, because there were planes taxiing up to you, there was an LCD screen saying what the airplane was, what airline, where's it going, who's coming next.
This is crazy. Wow.
It was so good. And then inside there's a cafe and a little shop full of things where they sell the drinks trolleys. So I did think of you when I saw that. But
these ones are very expensive. I mean, these ones are very expensive. So that's why I'd rather buy an old trolley from discarded one and refurbish it myself but they really look good.
They look good, and it was what a fun thing to have, and it was a great place for us to go out and take pictures and film,
of course,
for the episode.
Because if you didn't realize, guys, he was doing an episode in Zurich. I couldn't be there, sadly. At the same time, we missed each other because I had too much work. But
Rico, your friend, now my friend.
Rico Wider. Hi, Rico.
Rico, thank you. Very generous with his time and his expertise and his enthusiasm. Took us around, and we went to Sterner Grill, which was amazing.
I love
delicious sausage there, but. You talk about that airport a lot with a great deal of enthusiasm. I can absolutely see why. It is incredibly well appointed, great amenities, great shopping, sensibly laid out, easy to get around, obviously well connected. The train station is built into the airport, much similar to Amsterdam. I was impressed. I will now try and find those great fares going out of Zurich because it's so easy to get to and it's so easy to get through as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's both an airport that is very easy to deal with your original destination or evidently as a layover. I mean, the only difference is as a layover, there's not yet e-gates, but the immigration desks are almost empty every time. And there's always literally 5 open and the queue might be one person in front of you. So it's not a problem yet, which is probably why they haven't actually installed these e-gates yet So just guys, go on something like Foursquare and look at the reviews of Zurich airports. It's not to be me saying that because, I have a Swiss passport, so people will say that Paul is over-exaggerating its quality. I've never seen such an organized, clean, and speedy airport. It's so clean, you could eat from the floor. Yeah, that's Zurich Airport for you. I mean, it's very, would I say it's beautiful? I don't know, because it's very minimalist. The colors is gray, white, black, and a little bit of wood. The one cool thing about it is that whenever there's a Swiss logo, which is red, it's really striking because it's completely, contrasting. But it's very well laid out, very clean, although it's not new, this airport has been around for a very long time, especially the gates A, which is when you arrive, especially with a train, which to your point is maybe the only bit which can be for people who go there the first time a bit disconcerting, because if you arrive by train, and I'm not saying by car, nor by tramway, because tramway you're on the ground,
yes,
and then you walk and you're basically in the airport. By car, same, you're in the terminal. When you are in the train, you literally arrive in something that is both a train station and a mall. I mean, a lot of US mall, we have a lot of shops, including
there are a lot of shops, yeah.
And that's the thing, you can already check in, but you are actually still in the railway station, but you can already check in, or you can opt to actually take the elevators and or the escalators and go to the actual check-ins of the airport. So when people arrive there for the first time, some people will say, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to check in here? I'm still seemingly in a railway station. Yes, you are, but everything is linked. And so that gives you the choice. In Switzerland, as I told you guys, I think many episodes ago, if you do fly Swiss, you can usually check in your luggage from the train station you're leaving from. So it doesn't have to be Zurich or Geneva Airport. It could be from the mountain directly. You check in there, you hand out your luggage, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Which is actually a pretty cool thing to do. So that's maybe the only slightly confusing bit about that airport. Then you arrive, of course, in the main airport, which they call it, as long as you're landside, it's called the airport center. Again, malls and shops and check-ins and baggage drop. And then when you pass security, which is pretty also well done, you arrive in the airside center, so you gates A, and this is where you have also well shops. And this part is very well done. To your point, Alex, you cannot actually go to observation deck B, which is the one you visited, if you're already in
airside.
Yeah. You have to go back out. There is, though, a little cafe next to these A gates, B gates. You have a little cafe. It's called a sports bar. It's pretty new. It's been open maybe a year now. You can see the apron. You have one aircraft right in front of you. It's actually pretty cool. And there is, for me, what is the best feature of that airport. It's the E gates, gates E, sorry, because that's why we had this confusion earlier. So the flagship where you'll have the long haul flights leaving from, you'll see the Singapore, the United, the Cathay, the Swiss, the big birds, the 777s, etc. They will be flying from there. You have to take a little train that goes under one of the runways, but you can access it even if you don't have a flight leaving from there, but you just have a few hours or even like an hour, because again, it's a very efficient airport. You have also an observation deck on these gates E on the top, both from the lounges. There are superb lounges there. I'll particularly like the Senator one from Swiss, but there are others. The Aspire one is actually pretty well done as well. Or you can simply go, you have parts of these observation deck open to a ticketed passenger, no matter where you are. And these, you have not only you see the big birds, because they're very close to you, obviously, because they're parked in front of you, but you see two, if I'm not mistaken, out of the 3 runways, including one just in front of you. So you see the landings or the takeoffs. Yeah, it's a very cool one.
That's the one thing, is that runway, that is sort of behind the airport almost. Yes. You don't see from the observation deck, so you don't always see all of this, the heavy stuff.
The runway that basically goes between these E gates and the main A, B, D gates on the other side is, you'll probably see more 320s and smaller aircraft. The longer runway is, but you can see it from the E gates, but you have to be on, that's the only way you can see it.
Sort of because, northeast side.
Correct, absolutely.
We had a kind of an interesting experience because we took a helicopter flight.
I was about to ask you that.
We had to meet the pilot at the Executive Jet Center, which is in the kind of western part of the airport.
Yep.
It's a substantial facility, as one would imagine at Zurich Airport. They need that, and it's got its own security, it's got its own customs area, and we met him there, and then went through security, went through this sort of airlocky type thing where they, for customs, and then we got into a minibus and we drove for at least 15 minutes. Wow. Around the entire outside of the airport, all the way around to the south airside the whole time, over to the far northwest corner of the airport, which is where almost along the perimeter fence, which is where they park executive jets that aren't in transit, as well as the helicopters. And so we were able to go in over there and then take off directly to the west. We weren't able to fly over the airport, but it really showed you how big that airport was, and some of the jets there were just crazy.
The craziest time of the year, if you want to see amazing jets, is Davos. The World Economic Forum meeting in end of January. You go at Zurich Airport. They actually almost run out of place to put all these private jets, because you have all those, the leaders of the world and the leaders of the big firms that are flying there, and you see all these stuff parked there, and you're like, holy cow, what is happening here?
Yeah, that's what it felt. I mean, I posted a video on Instagram of us coming in, and you could see that area was completely full of very, very, very high-end jets, because there's a row where they do it near the compass rose for the calibrations that they do. Behind that, there's a parking space for smaller private jets as well.
Wow, yeah. So the airport has just below 30 million passengers a year now, so it's been increasing quite substantively. Maybe is it 27? I don't remember the number, guys. Better just look it up. So it's a pretty big operation, but it doesn't feel like it when you're inside, because
not at all.
It feels very smooth.
They've segmented it really nicely. So the area that I was in, that you mentioned, where that newer Swiss lounge is.
That's sorry to interrupt. So that's the airside center, but where you are, you're closer to the A gates, which is the first terminal, if you want, where all the gates are. And this is the lounge I was talking about in the last episode. And you've seen, did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent lounge. I love that it has a quiet zone as well. I'm a big fan of those, and you don't have somebody yapping away on their phone or listening to music or videos or whatever. But because it's on 2 levels, and because you have that open, you're on an atrium level at the top. I'm talking about the terminal, not the lounge. Mm-hmm. It feels compact and quiet and not overwhelming and not loud. And then the gates, you go through it to the non-Schengen area.
So that's also very clever, because this is the B gates and the D gates. And I think I've said it also like maybe 7-10 episodes ago. Actually, the stands on which, let's say, stands 33, it's the same stand. It's B33 and D33. So if you're non-Schengen, you're actually on the lower ground and you're getting to the same aircraft. If you were in Schengen and that aircraft, so for them to do turnarounds, it's very easy. So it's the same gate, just that you're segregated in. So I think it's a very clever design.
I do too. It definitely impressed me. It's so well thought out, and you can see why it's such a popular place to do a layover.
Yeah, I know that I've been boring, and I'm going to try to stop talking about Zurich from now on, because that's why let's do it in the episode, because I think it's really one for its size, because we're not talking 80 million passengers, but we're not either talking like 2 million passengers. No. It's very well run. You're never lost. You can arrive pretty late and still make the aircraft, of course, not as late probably as a Lucy, but because it's a bigger airport in its size, but it's very well done. And to Alex's point, if you are there, besides the observation deck, you have tons of guided tours you can do. You can do guided tours of the tower. An actual retired pilot will give you like a tour and explain what the people are doing and how an aircraft is landing. You can do a bus tour. You can rent buses and actually do the same thing you've done probably a little bit to actually go to your helicopter with a bus, and having also someone giving you like explaining you what happens. You have the 2 observation decks I mentioned. And you can also, this is really cool, you can rent rollerblades or bikes and do a tour, which is, of course, specified. You cannot go on the runway, clearly, and actually see planes from outside. And you can rent them at Zurich Airport. It's part of the facility. I love airports that are part of the community. They're saying, okay, we've built this thing. It's expensive. It makes a lot of noise. They have a lot of noise restrictions, actually. This is why it closes like at 11:30 or whatever. But they are trying to make it as that you can go like for a leisure activity, even if you're never flying. And I find that very cool.
I do too. I was so impressed by it. I thought it was a great airport.
So now, what else? We have a lot of next flights coming up, which also is the big question mark. When will we be able to release another one?
Yeah.
Where? So you're going? What you mentioned? What RD to Vegas? So you probably
I'm doing London. I'm doing Heathrow, Vegas, Chicago, Heathrow next week, and then all this stuff, right? Yeah, and then Hong Kong.
Oh yes,
on Cathay on an A350, and then up to Ishigaki on Hong Kong Express. Come back for a day, over to Japan, to Tokyo on ANA, and then from Shizuoka to Sapporo, which I'm interested in trying, and then back home again.
So that's almost 3.5 weeks, basically, because in each place he's staying, he's not going to Hong Kong for 1 day, Ishigaki for 1 day, and Japan for 2 days. And I have a lot. I mean, this month I'm going to Berlin, I'm going to Serbia, I'm going to Amsterdam, I'm going to Paris, I'm going to Madrid. I mean, and then I'm starting also long haul as well. And to be frank, we don't know where we're going to be able to record, because Alex will be on the road, I'll be on the road. We'll try to do something, but you might. So let's just make sure you might have to wait for up to a month before we have our next episode. We'll try to do our best, but we really are busy. It's a very busy time of the year. Actually, if you look at every year, this is a time when our episode schedule starts to crumble down a bit.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to Athens as well for a travel event. And Tokyo. So Tokyo is cool because it could be maybe I'll be there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll actually meet there. We'll see. Surprise for you guys. You know that Tokyo is because I think we talked about that a few episodes ago that Uber was trying to think about launching their Uber flying taxi thing, their VTOL thing, and they are thinking that Tokyo could be the launch city, and you would be literally flying from Narita to the center somewhere, a rooftop, I guess, in the center, with something like that. I don't know if it's for Haneda, but at least Narita could be the one because it's a little bit further out. I mean, it's not going to be there next month, but that would be so cool, man. So science fiction.
That would be very cool.
So Tokyo, actually, like what you expect of a like futuristic city. I don't know.
Yes.
But that would be really fantastic. Well, yeah, I think that's it for this episode. We've talked a whole lot. I'm sure we forgot a lot of stuff that you told us, guys, and I'm sure you've got a lot of news that we could have told you guys. We'll have lots of flights, which means our next episode will be Paul and Alex are traveling in planes talking about them. And up to that, safe travel, guys.
Safe travels, guys.